So was Donald Trump an FBI informant, or did Mike Johnson just totally make that up? I see a lot of people asking that question, but I feel like the answer is not only obvious, I mean, isn't it known? Isn't it kind of like widespread public knowledge that Trump was the guy who, I don't know about FBI, but definitely told Palm Beach police or something, the attorney for some of the Epstein victims at one of the fairly recent trials, maybe the 2019 volley of trials, said that Trump played an important role. Everybody knows he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. I don't know, for the limited number of people who maybe don't know what I'm talking about, there was this video of Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Let's listen to it for a second.
That he's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this.
So there you go. I mean, so I've seen people analyzing this, saying, oh, Mike Johnson is spewing QAnon theories, and that did he let something slip that he wasn't supposed to say? People analyzing Mike Johnson's body language. I don't know, he seemed like a pretty normal delivery of what, like I said, I presumed was kind of public knowledge, widely known. I think he might have slightly misspoken there in saying that Trump was an FBI informant, at least with regard to Epstein. I don't know that it was the FBI that was doing anything with Epstein in Palm Beach. It was U.S. attorneys. That's why Alexander Acosta was getting letters from Gerald Lefcourt signed by Alan Dershowitz. Remember, Dersh freaked out when I asked him about that letter. That's really the big problem. I saw a pretty good Whitney Webb interview yesterday. I don't know the name of the guy she was talking to, but Whitney Webb has done a lot of research on this. I don't personally know Whitney. I've dealt with her only very, very small amount, but I think her research on this is quite sound. And, you know, she said something that I have thought for quite a long time, you know, not to minimize these crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, the abuse of women and girls, but it just seems like almost just a small part of what he was doing. It seems like money laundering and arms trafficking and all kinds of international craziness with, we've spoken a lot with Patrick Reveron of Single Company about the Adnan Khashoggi connections to Israeli government, Israeli intelligence, CIA. That's the part that Dersh doesn't want to talk about. They're closing down various parts of the Highland. You know, it was super nice earlier, but now it seems like it's going to rain, or I don't know. It's a little bit of an Indian summer day, so if it starts, it seems like it might, if it starts raining, we might have to end the live stream. But the point is, I don't see anything weird at all about what Mike Johnson said there. It's, like I said, we had this, here's the lawyer. His name is, what's this guy's name? Bradley, what is his name here? Bradley Edwards is the lawyer. He gave this press conference where I think he said, I didn't find the video in time, but I found that article. I think he said at that press conference that Trump was pivotal in helping with the investigation. So, you know, I don't know. Who knows why Trump doesn't want to release the Epstein documents? I mean, it does seem weird. There's a lot of argument on both sides, but I've come to the opinion that it just doesn't seem like Trump has done criminal stuff with kids, because the Democrats have had forever to bring that out. I mean, wouldn't it have come out during the first, if there was credible evidence there, wouldn't it have come out during the first 2016 when they threw everything, including the kitchen sink at him? Or wouldn't it have come out during 2020, when was it, 23, 4, when Letitia James was prosecuting with made-up statutes through Alvin Bragg? Why didn't they bring it out then? They controlled the FBI, and that was all FBI that super-duper hated Trump. We still have FBI that seems to super-duper hate Trump. Adam Johnson, the lectern guy, this isn't FBI, but it goes to the DOJ and the corruption deeply within there. He's been following the case of Patrick Scruggs, who is a former DOJ prosecutor, was Adam's prosecutor. People who don't know Adam, he's been on the show. Uh-oh, it is raining. Adam's been on the show. He's the lectern guy who took the lectern from Nancy Pelosi's office and just moved it within the Capitol building. He got charged with felony, even though he never actually stole the property. You got this dude now stabbing a Ukrainian refugee on the train. Will he get charged? There was that guy who assaulted an officer, albeit with a sandwich. It's still assault on an officer and then resisting arrest. Misdemeanor. Adam essentially took a funny Instagram picture, felony charges. He spent time in federal prison. Anyway, the point is, Scruggs was the prosecutor, and in a road rage incident, Scruggs stabbed a dude several times. The guy was in his car. Scruggs walks up to the car, stabs the guy. Now he's claiming self-defense. I didn't quite absorb the details of Adam's tweet this morning. Like I said, he's been all over the details of the case. So hopefully he'll join me soon and we'll get some more information on that. But Scruggs is doing something where he's claiming self-defense and it's triggering this whole process. Obviously, that's a guy who understands the law very well, knows how you can, jam up a judgment no matter what you've actually done. Yeah, whatever's happening with your kid is way more important than everybody here. Clog this artery rather than moving the kid 2 feet over that way to wipe his face. Point is, there's a lot of manipulation of the legal system, a lot of different flavors of lawfare, but in this case, I think Mike Johnson didn't say anything really that unusual. He's just basically stating a pretty widely, publicly known fact. But, I was watching Tim Pool, who I just find remarkably ignorant. People will say, oh, Jason, you're jealous of Tim Pool. I'm really not. I just am irritated that somebody that low information, as Sal Greco would say, gets so much attention and viewership. I first became extremely suspicious of Tim Pool during the first Trump administration because I thought that he was kind of like a left-leaning libertarian who didn't like Trump. And then I remember one day I was watching him and he was like, oh, Bill Barr, great guy. And I was like, what? I don't know, does he do any research at all or he just goes on there and spews his opinion? Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just no research opinion and people enjoy that. God bless him and all the money that he boasts about having. I just find it really weird that certain shows and certain accounts get super elevated and then other shows and other accounts that seem to be bringing forth important information get suppressed and harassed by people who seem to be affiliated with some of these same things that Tim Pool is supporting and defending. He's got a lot of guys there who I don't think are stupid. Phil and Ian, those guys know some stuff. Do they really not know about this attorney who said that Donald Trump was so important in the investigation and getting Epstein ultimately arrested? It looks like the rain is going to start any second, so I don't know, maybe I'll hang under this food court, or maybe it's quieter over there under this part. This thing has been closed for a long time for a private event. But whatever, I mean, even if Mike Johnson misspoke there, because remember, he's not in the DOJ, he's the Speaker of the House. And maybe he's not 100% up on his history of the Epstein prosecution. Maybe he said FBI informant when he meant Trump gave information to the police. By the way, here's another thing I was thinking about. People say, oh my God, Trump is an FBI informant. And that carries with it a really, you think of Ray Epps, you think of, frankly, maybe even Tim Pool. I don't know. But you see, what some of these FBI drunk assholes like that fat dummy Robin Gritz, they'll say, oh no, George Webb is not a UCO, because that's some kind of, official thing in the FBI. Now, in defense of that, like when I ask people like Sal or John McCarry or Eric Dim, I say, hey, Oren Levi works for the cops or whatever. They'll say, well, you know, because again, you're getting into their area of expertise and saying something that's, you know, technically incorrect. I'm trying to put myself into their mindset. He doesn't work for the cops. From my point of view, he does, because he's there, you know, doing things that help them, and they're protecting him. So it seems like he works for them or with them or something, but they're thinking, no, he's not a uniformed officer. He's not a civilian, whatever the people working in the office are. I'm sure there's janitors who are employed by NYPD, secretaries, people who fix the buildings, who knows what. But they, you know, when you say, oh, he works for the cops, or you say, oh, this person is an FBI UCO or an FBI informant, this also gets to the Epstein thing, right? When you say, oh, you know, he was a Mossad agent. Alan Dershowitz can go into court and say, no, he wasn't. Because that's probably some kind of official designation where, you know, you're in the Army and then you get hired by them and they say, okay, you're an agent, you're an operative, you're an analyst. Same with CIA, right? They have officers, they have analysts, they have agents, and then you get people like that Andrew Bustamante. That guy is like, who does he remind me of from the Simpsons? Sideshow Bob. He's like the Sideshow Bob of the CIA. I mean, look, I don't know that guy. I'm sorry to disparage him. Actually, I'm not. It just seems ridiculous to me that these guys go on podcasts and they're like, oh, you know, people in the comments are saying that you're a plant putting out propaganda and disinformation. I mean, do we really believe that the CIA allows that guy to violate non-disclosure agreements and come onto some podcast and tell you things that the CIA doesn't want you to know? How does it make sense that the NYPD now, on at least 2 instances, well, let me back up. I don't have proof. This is another important distinction. We got to talk about evidence versus proof. Desiree was on the show the other day talking about proof. I don't believe that what she had rose to the status of proof. She was presenting evidence as she understood it. Some of it I agreed with, some of it I disagreed with. But I now have evidence that strongly suggests that on at least 2 occasions, the NYPD was able to stop a live stream that they did not like in real time while it was happening, prevent it from going out. The first one that I'm aware of was back down there in Collect Pond Park when we had the Stormy Daniels Donald Trump case going on. Do people remember that? Oren Levi was there with some big bruiser, another mumble mouth, mush mouth. Naked space robot chicks. What are you talking about? Oh, on the High Line here? Yeah, that's possible. I didn't notice that. But the point is, Oren Levi was down there. And there were all these, you know, actual undercover NYPD, or at least that's what they looked like to me. They had like NYPD style haircuts. They looked kind of like barrel-chested, overweight, heavy drinkers, the way a lot of NYPD officers are in 2024 and 2025. And they had their cell phones clipped to their belts. They'll start changing these things now to try to change it up and fool me. That's fine. But I was just like, oh, who's this guy, your NYPD bodyguard? And the guy got a look of shock on his face. I said, look, there's NYPD over there, NYPD over there. And then not only was the live stream terminated, the entire YouTube channel was shut off. Now, look, if NYPD had undercover agents who were trying to stop gang crime or thwart a drug deal or something, and somebody showed up live streaming that to expose them, I could understand how they don't want that happening. But when they're in the park, stopping a citizen from accessing the First Amendment and exposing that they are protecting an operation to fraudulently prosecute Donald Trump, it seems like a lot of violations of law and my rights and whatever, but that deleted the whole entire YouTube channel at that moment. Now, do we think that was George's brother calling YouTube? Because he doesn't seem to have that level of access. Normally, he needs to bring a lawsuit against me, name YouTube as a defendant, serve it on them, tell their lawyers, allegedly, hey, you're going to get brought into this lawsuit if you don't terminate Jason's channels. Then all the channels go away. That's a process. That takes a little bit of time. The cops shut it off like that. Then, just the other day, and if people were watching yesterday, I had a very detailed video about this. Evidence seems to suggest, very, very compelling evidence, strongly suggests, I might even say a preponderance of evidence that might rise to the level of proof, certainly in a civil action, seems to show that through a third party, NYPD was able to launch what looks like a zero-click remote code. There's the rain. A zero-click remote code executing attack on my phone that put the phone to sleep and thereby ended the, yeah, everybody's running from the rain now, ended the live stream. Wow, the wind is kicking up. This is like a crazy rainstorm that's about to happen. It's actually raining under this thing. This is no joke. Little hurricane happening. Instant hurricane, man. How you doing? Wow. This is intense. Can people see that? It's like a wall of rain. It's difficult to photograph rain. But trust me, it's raining. A lot. So anyway,
Sorry.
I just don't think it's any kind of mystery. So, and then a lot of people will say, oh, Trump's uncle was in the FBI. I don't think that's correct. His uncle was an MIT professor, and he has some patents and did a bunch of work with Mr. Van de Graaff. Stuff with the Van de Graaff generator, which that has some similar properties to a Tesla coil. I don't know enough about this to really speak about it intelligently, but even just looking at Wikipedia, it tells us that, where is this here? Well, first of all, he was in the Army, but I think everybody in the 1940s pretty much was. Oh man, it's really raining. And then during the war years, so wait a minute, here he is driving a Jeep. He was doing some research with the radar lab, British branch. So, I mean, he's involved in the government and everything. Here we go. But in 1943, the Office of Alien Property Custodian, which is today, they still have some version of this. It's the Office of Foreign Asset Control, controlled by the Treasury Department. So this is, you know, they were saying like, oh, Tesla died at the New Yorker, and, you know, we just saw Tesla's little monument to Tesla the other day over at that Serbian church or whatever it is, Serbian Orthodox, I think. Anyway, they sent Trump's uncle to look through all of Tesla's stuff, which the FBI obtained. Holy cow, this is insane rain. Here he's driving the Jeep. So the FBI obtained this stuff, and then John G. Trump, Trump's uncle, the Trumple, he was tasked with examining it and figuring out if it was in fact this super Tesla energy ray that was, wow, what a rainstorm. You know, Tesla was purported to be building this super duper energy ray that was supposed to be, so these people are standing on the one side of the building where we're not getting rained on, yapping it up. Anyway, Tesla was purported to be building this super duper energy ray that could like destroy all life on Earth or something like that. So I guess they were interested in figuring out if that was there in the hotel. And that's what they got Trump's uncle involved in. But he wasn't doing anything with the FBI as far as I can tell. Now, the other thing I wanted to investigate was Trump has been around making millions for a long, super long time. So, you know, the FBI knows something about him. You can just easily Google Trump, FBI vault, and Trump, and it brings up a lot of stuff, by the way. Now, I don't think they'd tell you, oh yeah, he was a confidential informant, but even just looking through here, we can see before all this stuff with Robert Mueller's investigation and Trump running for president, there was a lot of Trump investigation of Ivana Trump, because she's, you know, from another country. I don't know who this is, Marianne Trump. I guess that's his niece. David Dinkins, remember? He was the mayor of New York. Even just looking through here, I tried to search this for Trump, but I think you might have to download it. I mean, the point is that's from 1998. So the FBI has been, you know, getting into Trump for some time. I don't think it's any surprise. People are acting like this is some kind of crazy thing that the FBI has some interest in or involvement with Trump. There's tons of redacted documents in here. Trump owned casinos in New Jersey, which we know the mob is super involved in all that. So the notion that Trump and the FBI would be, you know, talking about mob stuff, who is surprised by that? Right, so I was saying, is he an informant? I don't know, but did he ever talk to the FBI? I mean, it seems super likely. By the way, if somebody, you know, kidnapped somebody in your family and you called the FBI, or let's say a fucking lunatic like George's wife-swapping paperclip Nazi brother was harassing you every single day for 8 years and did things that appeared to include, here, mystery money man. That's talking about Epstein, and it names Trump in the news article. So there's Epstein right there. Billionaire solicited 3 times. FBI is obviously interested in and talking to Trump quite a bit. Getting crowded under here. How can the rain persist for this long? But obviously the FBI was interested in him for some time. So if you had this lunatic harassing you every day for 8 years, filing documents that appear to be forged in federal court, first thing I did is I went to the Detroit police. And they agreed with me. They said this evidence, first of all, this is a better investigation than our detectives could have done. Congratulations. And this evidence caused the lieutenant in the Detroit police, detective who was a lieutenant, she said, yeah, I agree with you. Looks like this guy has filed a forged document. Looks like the clerk knew about it. But I can't do anything because that's a federal court. The woman actually said to me, the police detective, the lieutenant said to me, that clerk could shoot somebody in the federal court building and I couldn't do anything because I would have no jurisdiction. You got to go to the FBI. So I spoke to the FBI. Now, does that make me an FBI informant? I'm a crime victim trying to get George's mentally ill brother to fuck off and go away forever. I can't seem to get him to do it. I was hopeful that law enforcement, like the cops or the FBI, could do it because I'm not the type of person who takes the law into my own hands. In my view, that's a good way to yourself get thrown in jail, and I'd like to avoid that. Seems like the rain is letting up, but look at that, it's already, I wonder if it's flooding the subway. Because Eric Adams, he's very busy making announcements that he's running for mayor. Didn't we already know that? Why did we need an announcement for that? But, yeah, so that's FBI interest in Trump. Here, also this. We have, just in the news, picking a winner in NYC's Great Land Rush of 1985. This is talking about, this is in the FBI vault. So this is some newspaper article. But obviously they're interested in Trump way before he's running for president. There he is right there. There's Trump. Now, I don't know exactly what this is talking about, but 1985 is going to somewhat coincide with when he built Trump Tower there in Midtown on 50, what is it, 5th, 57th? 55th? Because remember, everybody said, hey, that's crazy. High-end condominiums in Midtown Manhattan, nobody's doing that. It's all offices and manufacturing even at that time. Midtown Manhattan, believe it or not. When I first started multimedia system design, I had a watch company as a client. They were manufacturing, at that time they were the last to do it, but they manufactured watches in a factory in the middle of New York City. I'm sure it's gone. I mean, that was 30-something years ago. Man. But anyway, the point is, when he did that, it was notable. I was just thinking, what does she think about the assassination attempt? But it was notable because they were saying how lots of Russian millionaires, it kind of coincided with perestroika, right? So 1985, they're talking about the land rush. I think that building was built around 1988. Perestroika was like 91, 92. And remember, that's when lots of Russian, now oligarchs, and also Bill Browder, Lee Stranahan talks about this a lot, how Bill Browder and Mikhail Khodorkovsky were very involved. I think the Clintons were involved. I think Felix Sater was involved in this, my opinion. Somehow they seemed to have been involved. But this is where, you know, things that were previously owned by the Soviet Union government, like power generation companies and aluminum companies, they got denationalized, right? They gave everybody stock certificates in these things. And some of these kind of robber barons who today are like instant billionaires, they went around to these unsuspecting Russian people, Soviet former Republic citizens. Here's that weird thing. Somebody pointed out it looks like a bacteriophage. I agree with that. But anyway, these robber baron types, they went around to some of these former Soviet citizens and said, hey, what the hell are you going to do with these pieces of paper? You don't need stock certificates. We'll give you $100 for that. And these guys basically bought up, or whatever the money was, not bucks, but you know what I'm saying. They exchanged, we'll give you $100 for that. And these guys basically bought up, or whatever the money was, not bucks, but you know what I'm saying. They exchanged low amounts of cash with no investment experience or knowledge.